The Tories, yes, and Liberal Democrats are talking about cuts, public expenditure cuts, unemployment cuts, talking about attacking, as Rodney said, the welfare state and pensions. But I want to remind this audience that we had a new Labour government from 1997. Why the hell didn't they do all these things when they were in office? And instead, they tried to practice capitalism better than the Tories. That's why people reacted against them in the election that's just taken place. We need to have a radical programme of expansion, development and public expenditure. It's not revolutionary. In the United States of America, in the Great Depression, Roosevelt spent money on public expenditure. He didn't cut back. He built the Hoover Dam. They developed the Panama Canal. They built great buildings and houses. Why is it with 750,000 unemployed builders and construction workers and hundreds of thousands of people without a house, what's beyond the wit of man in putting those workers to work and building houses to put people in and building hospitals so we can treat all our people at the time of need, upon demand and completely free of charge? Tell you what I'd do. I would give £15 billion extra per year to the National Health Service. Where would we get it from? I'll tell you where. We would cut the defence budget by 2/3, bring home all those young men and women from Iraq and Afghanistan and say that money will be spent on health and not death. Don't talk to me about ballots when Blair, without a ballot or a vote, took us into Iraq in an unlawful war that's cost over 100,000 people's lives and has caused misery to thousands of families in this country and indeed in many other countries around the world. It's high time that we began to build an infrastructure. Here we are in an area that was renowned for its mining expertise. Well, I want to see the reconstruction of the mining industry. I want to see pits open and pits that were closed reopened. Do you know that with coal, with clean coal technology, we can produce all the oil we want, we can produce all the gas we want, we can produce all the petrol and diesel we want, we can produce plastic, polythene, everything that you can think of. We can even produce saccharines from the bloody thing. And here we are importing 44 million tonnes of coal a year of an inferior quality, whilst we've got power stations that are running down. It's high time that we began a campaign to restore that culture that Rachel talked about in her introduction. The reason why we've got a rich culture, the reason why we've got welfare halls like this one, is because we were facing in the 1920s and 30s the sort of thing that Rodney referred to, a tax upon our class, and so we had no alternative. We built our own welfare halls, with our own libraries, with our own concerts. We produced the greatest brass bands in the world. We had a culture and a talent unmatched by anywhere in the world. That's why when people go to see musicals like Billy Elliot or Brassov, they're looking in terms of what was a wonderful story. But it's more than that. It's the story of a struggle of people. A story echoed in this area, in Denby, in Cadeby, yes, all through the Doncaster and Rotherham areas, where they paid the ultimate price, ice, and the ultimate sacrifice. But as far as I'm concerned, we should set out our programme clearly. Pensions should equal at least the average wage in this country. Is there any reason why, when a person is given 40 to 50 years of their lives to work for the state, they should be put on a pittance at the end of their working lives? It's time that we said we're not having any longer this two-tier system. where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's all about a class. It's not a crisis of bankers, it's a crisis of capitalism. I'll tell you what I would have done with the bankers. I'd have put them in brass handcuffs and put them in jail where they belong. It's high time that we got a movement that said we'll take it to common ownership. The banks, the insurance companies, the financial institutions, and we say that they belong to us and not to them. I've been a socialist all my life. I've been a trade unionist all my life. And I always think about the words of the legendary socialist James Connolly, who, when he was told that he was demanding outrageous things, said simply this. He said, "Such statements cause me mirth. Our demands most moderate are. We only want the earth. If you agree with that, regenerate the enthusiasm that you had in 1984 and 5, yes, and in 1926. Think of what our forefathers and, yes, the women folk did in those disputes, because the women were magnificent in the women's support groups, and that will never be forgotten. And if you do that, as we go forward into the 21st century, we can achieve the highest standard of living that anybody could have ever dreamed about, with riches beyond our dreams, with the capacity for 1,000 years of coal beneath our feet. We've got enough fish in the sea or in sea farms to not go hungry. We've got the capacity to produce all the food we want here in Britain. We have the capacity to begin to build ships in shipyards that have been closed down. We want to rebuild the steel plants. We want to rebuild the engineering plants. In other words, put people back to work. 8.1 million people are out of work in real terms. The cost is 121 billion. I say spend that money on giving them a decent work, a decent job and a decent wage. They would then be paying taxes and stimulating the economy. What we need, all of us, is to have a perspective. Mine, as a trade unionist and a socialist, is to have a better way of life, and a life where we own and control the things that matter, the means of production, distribution and exchange. I was in Dublin for May Day, and as we walked down the street where they rose up against oppression, I was proud when they began to sing the international hymn of the working class. I'm an internationalist. I want to see justice and fairness, not merely in this country, but for people all over the world. We can make the deserts bloom by using the seawater and turning it into clean water by a process known as desalination. Wouldn't it be better to save all those children's lives by spending money currently being used on death and destruction, on life and happiness for those in desperate need? It's a privilege to be here. It always was a privilege to be in Cadeby and Deneby. I can promise you this, to my dying day, I'll never change my faith, which is a commitment to my class and those miners and their wives and families who gave me the honour